Hey guys, Eric from Labrador Sports. This video is going to be a little bit different from what we normally do. Usually we use the YouTube channel to put out videos around tutorials and how-tos with new releases within the app, but some of you may have noticed that are on the tool more frequently than others. We spent about a week collecting feedback using the Net Promoter Score. And if you're unfamiliar with the Net Promoter Score, it's essentially a standardized question that asks how likely are you to recommend a tool or something that you use with your friends or colleagues or things like that. And so it's based off of a 10-point scale where you end up splitting up your respondents into 3 categories. Your top respondents are going to be called promoters. Your 7s and 8s on that 10-point scale are going to be passives. And then anyone that rates you 6 or below are going to be your detractors, right? People that are not going to recommend you. And there's basically a methodology that forces you to score on a 100-point scale. So we ran this survey. We ended up collecting a healthy number of responses, and we've been kind of completing our analysis on those responses. And now I wanted to share the results with you. So I'm actually I set up this dashboard that I wanted to share with you. And so now you should be able to see it. And so right off the bat, right, what is a good score for the Net Promoter Score? So it is on a 100-point scale. I haven't worked the math out quite right here where it says 0.41. That actually translates to a 41. And so, since this is such a standardized question, there are some benchmarks that you can go off of. So usually anything above 0 is good. Anything above 25 is very good. And then when you get into the 50s and higher, it's like excellent, world-class type of Net Promoter Score. And so we came in at a 41. Certainly would love to strive to be higher. But all in all, we're pretty satisfied with that, with where we are right now. And this is based off of 220 total responses. So we've got a nice cross section of users that ended up responding to this. Again, for anyone that took the time to respond to the survey, we're immensely grateful. Reading through the comments has been a ton of fun and enlightening, and generally this tells us that we're going in the right direction. Where we've got a lot more people rating us 9s or 10s, right? You can see here's our breakdown of responses. 10s was far and away the most common response that people were rating us. So if people are that enthusiastic about the product, we're very happy with that. The other questions that we asked, how easy is the tool to use? That's the customer effort, and that goes from a scale out of 5 from very easy to very difficult to work with. Again, most of our responses are coming in that 4 to 5 range, probably more so 4s than 5s. And so that's certainly something that we acknowledge. There are certain things that we can do to make the tool easier to work with. But we're certainly on the right half of being easy to work with, as opposed to being more difficult to work with. And honestly, that's what we have always viewed our draw being. Provide your email address, get access to the tool, and start building. Hopefully that's as easy as it can get for a lot of our coaches that are coming in. And then finally, we asked what was the reason for rating us on that Net Promoter Score the way that you did, and if there were any feature requests. And so I'll spend a little bit more time going through the reasons and the feature requests that we got. But the other thing before I flip over to that is just kind of breaking down who we got responses from. And so based off of user privileges, you may or may not be aware, basically the way that we categorize our users is one of 4 ways. An administrator, so this is someone that owns a team. They're going to be like the primary buyer. So obviously very important to us that group is happy. Coaches are probably a close second, right? These are going to be content creators that are part of a team that an administrator is running. So that represents not quite half of the responding group. We got 45 admins to respond, 17 coaches to respond. And then we've, obviously we sort of operate under a freemium model. So we've got a lot of people that don't have any affiliation to a team. They're just coming in and using the playbook and sharing with their friends in a more personal manner. And then finally players, and players is a little bit, the definition is a little bit harder to nail down, but essentially a player could be anyone between a player, right, the actual user of the tool and a member of the team. But then anyone that is a parent or a secondary contact of a player would also fall into that player category, right? And so these are people that have been invited into the tool, and really the tool's kind of been forced on them. And hopefully we can make that experience as easy to bite as possible. All right. And so as we sort of flip through the roles and how each group rated us, we can kind of see how the score changes. So with our admins, we end up seeing our average score go up a little bit. So from a 41 to a 47. So our admins are generally happier with the tool than the general population. And then when we layer in coaches, we go up a little bit higher, up to a 53. Coaches by themselves actually rated us a 71. I'm like, through the roof with how positive that response has been. So, but recognizing we only got 17 responses, and the NPS methodology it's highly volatile. So if we ended up getting just one more response as either like an 8, which still feels pretty good, it could have a pretty major impact on our actual NPS score. So, cautiously optimistic with how well we scored with our coaches. Then if we flip down to our nuns, these are basically our personal users, people that just have tried the tool for free. Again, only 14 responses, and these were split between, promoters and detractors. We didn't have any passives. We're doing okay, right? This was our lowest performing group. And so definitely as we hope to turn more of those freemium users into other users, we certainly need to make the experience better for them. And I think that generally just starts with, we need to make the Play Designer as easy as possible to use. And then the last group that we've got here are going to be those players and parents. And I was very pleasantly surprised with how well we performed there, coming in with a score of 37. Again, these are people that did not ask for the tool. They had a coach or an administrator within the program say, hey, we're on Lacrosse Lab, so you're going to be using this tool. And we also see that the feedback tends to skew away from the Play Designer and into more of like the team management capabilities, which is totally understandable. And we'll kind of go through all of the feedback that we received there. But at a high level, we're seeing really good outcomes on our Net Promoter Score, which we're really enthusiastic about, and hopefully we can just continue to improve on this year over year. And then also how easy the tool is to use. All right. So since I've already got this filter applied, I'll just kind of go through and make some comments around some of the reasons that we got for the scores that we did. Maybe chuckle at a few of them, but right up at top, this particular player gave us a 1 out of 10, which is certainly regrettable, and that we have too much information. So we'll try to think through how to incorporate this. Some of this might be, what information the coach is passing on to them and what's palatable, but certainly everyone's got their feedback. Sports, awesome, muy bien. It's been fair, convenient. I think especially for this this user base, really happy with just hearing that it's convenient. It's not too cumbersome, and if we can go beyond that, that's a huge win. It's a great app for organizing lacrosse plays and drills. Again, kind of going back to getting into more of the team management capabilities, posting pictures, headshots. Getting a notification when you post. And so I'll kind of use this time to maybe clarify some of our capabilities. So posting pictures, this might be like incorporating a headshot on the roster, not necessarily like live action shots happening during a game. But everyone has the ability to post a headshot. It's part of their individual profile. And this comes down to the individual user to upload their picture. You just go into your profile settings and add a picture in the top left corner. But coaches do not have the ability to upload pictures. So this is purely, at the user level who's uploading headshots and whatnot. It's something, as we read through some of these other comments, something that we can certainly look at exposing. And I think there's some pieces of information that make sense on either side of either side of the coin between coaches and admins versus the players. And then the last one, it's really, it looks like it's a comment really around the ease of use of the play designer. Again, certainly we're always striving to make this as easy as possible. And so trying to be considerate of, as we add new moves or different interactions, making sure that it's always better than it was yesterday. And then if we scroll back up to the top of these users, there's one user down below, kind of some access situation. So often what we see in this case is that a user might have multiple accounts. And we took a look in this case, and that is the case. This person does have multiple accounts, and it's just about managing across devices, whether they're logged in on the app or the website, and which account they're logged into is going to obviously determine what they have visibility to. Excuse me. I always love the honest feedback. Again, the literal question is, how likely are you to recommend? In this case, this person's not very likely to recommend because they don't have a lot of friends that play lacrosse. Fair. So that's kind of the early mix of the feedback that we got for why they scored us. And then if we flip back over to the top on what features would be requested, that players should be able to see the depth chart. Fully agree. We've got some other scopes of work that we're looking at building out, but I will throw this in with the caveat. I know I'm responding to a player or a parent, but this would ultimately be left up to coach's discretion on what information would be exposed to players and not. The other piece that's very close to this is player evaluations. There's a coach and admin only feature to do player evaluations. It is only visible to those users, but we are planning on enabling the exposure of that information out to players as a means to do kind of the preseason, postseason meetings. Notifications and post players. Oh yeah, there was a piece of feedback that I had missed in that comment when we were looking at it the first time. The app, unless you have turned off notifications, the app will notify you anytime that you put out a notification, and that's across the entire team. So we'll probably be working back with that particular respondent and trying to support them through that. Moving plays and ability to shift people from a player view. So this is a very intentional design decision, actually, that really the intent of the tool from a team perspective is to share what the coaches have created. Coaches have the ability to also contribute to the playbook, but players do not. And it's kind of steadfast feedback that we get from coaches and admins is that they don't want anyone to be able to just go in and manipulate plays because it's going to impact what everyone sees. And so, we'll need to kind of dig into that feedback a little bit more. And then ability to download calendars. So this is related to a feature that we released a couple months ago where you can you can use your native calendar. So like Outlook or Apple Calendar, Google Calendar, to bring events over. Every calendar application has sort of their own means to subscribe to an external calendar. So we have enabled that feature, but we often get comments around like the refresh rate or how in sync each calendar is with our tool. And so there's generally settings within those tools that you can update to say, I want this calendar to be refreshed every week, every day, every 30 minutes. And so, if you are having trouble with that, I would just encourage you to kind of look at the subscription settings within your native calendar, because we are gonna push information on as frequently as we are allowed to, based off of what the user has suggested. So that's kind of a breakdown of what our players have said. I'll kind of pull in the admins and coaches together because they are a pretty similar user base. So the feature request here being just drag and dropping to reorder plays inside the folder. Yeah, fully agree. You do have the ability to select move up or move down kind of one at a time, but sort of that drag and drop interaction would be a lot easier. We fully agree, and we are looking into that. The feedback here, I think it's primarily getting an even deeper zoom level. I think we currently offer 3 different tiers of zoom that would allow you to bounce between like full field, half field, and then a little bit closer. This feedback could also be more specifically to the women's game, and so having an even deeper zone of what's going on inside the cone. Certainly agree. Like the capability to make more practice plans and pull drills in from the library. And I'd like to attach files to the chat feature, the message board, instead of putting them in a location that is somewhat difficult to find. So again, this is related to a newer feature that we released a few months ago. Yeah, we're definitely looking into how we can kind of cross-pollinate a lot of the features that we are including. Thinking back to the feedback around the depth chart, I could certainly see an argument where we pull the depth chart into like game events and allow you to have an event level depth chart different from kind of that master template. So you could, as a coach, you would be able to make adjustments based off of player availability, of attendance, or injuries or whatever else. So I'll pass the same over here. We do have the ability to pull in events. You can throw in links, but to this person's point, using the message board as a way to re-highlight some of the documents that have been posted, like the team handbook. Excuse me. All right, so this next one, having comments automatically appear. So I think this is getting at when you're animating a play through. Some of the comments maybe get buried, especially like the frame level comments. They get buried, and players have to go digging for them. So I think the feedback here is when you get to a frame that has commentary on it, just automatically display it. Totally fair. Add the ability to add multiple balls or passes. So I did actually confirm with this user. Drills are pretty open-ended. Drills, you can have multiple balls. A single player should be able to have multiple balls. So if you want to simulate having like a coach standing by a ball bucket, just give that coach a ton of different balls. One of the things I think could be beneficial here is also just giving you like a counter of how many balls an individual player or coach has. So yeah, anything to bring more visibility there. Direct messaging, posting photos to the home feed, a notification for when a player is not going to an event. Okay, especially for admins and coaches, I think that makes a ton of sense. Direct messaging or chat is something my partner and I have talked a lot about. We have plans for it. Just need to kind of move it up the priority list. I'll say the same for posting photos to the home feed. The document management capability that came out a few months ago, that was kind of our first pass at taking in additional documents. We're looking into how we can do photos the same. And I think this one gets a little bit different from the previous feedback where we were more so looking at headshots within the roster. This one might be more like a parent is on the sideline taking game pictures and we just want to share them back with the team. Love it. And then a notification for when a player RSVP is not going to an event. So this probably becomes one of those more urgent need to know notifications out to admins and coaches, because they're trying to determine what the right mix of practice plan is going to be for an individual player. And so having kind of that outbound notification to say this player's not going to an event makes a ton of sense. Ball movement in the same slide. This one, it's something that we need to explore a little bit more. It's something that we get feedback on a decent amount, where you're basically expecting to see multiple passes in a given frame, right? Where we're kind of managing the difference between drawing something up on a whiteboard where you're trying to minimize the number of frames, but in our world, frames are free. And so we've definitely talked about in terms of exposing information to a player, kind of consolidating meaningless frames. So I used an example in a response to one of these pieces of feedback around, in lacrosse, if you're going off of the general like pass dodge principle, your Lacrosse Lab setup might have 2 frames that are just showing the 2 swing passes prior to a dodge. So you need 3 frames in our model to be able to kind of showcase that. So it feels a little bit cumbersome, but when you come back to animate it, it plays through okay. But what we've talked about is kind of consolidating what would be 3 frames into 1. Makes it a little bit simpler as we're just kind of scrolling through frames and digesting information, or if you want to print something out and you want to just limit the number of frames that come out on the print. So trying to kind of wrap my head around. So as if anyone leaves a comment, if anyone can kind of help me understand what they're trying to accomplish there, that'd be great. Attaching a YouTube link showing the play run live. So this is available for the complete and collegiate tiers. It is not available for the basic or free tier, but basically you can embed a YouTube or a Vimeo link that you have access to, and kind of run it side by side, or at least in sequence to the play, so that players get a view of both the animation from Lacrosse Lab and then also the the video of whatever your favorite college team is that you happen to have film on. Allow multiple point arrows movements without having to go to the next frame. Allow more than one ball to be in play on drill, maybe, but I can't seem to figure it out. Vision cone. Okay. This one I think is similar to ball movement in the same slide. And so again, I'll just kind of say, if someone can help me understand like what you're trying to accomplish or showcase, that'd be really helpful. But our animation system is really built around the frame model. So if you guys can help us understand what we're doing, although I will say, you may have seen the Football Lab beta invitation. There's a lot going on in football that we certainly want to take over here. We have to treat plays a little bit different in football than we do lacrosse or basketball. And so especially on the timing of some things, we might be able to pull in some of those as kind of the best feature for all sports. So more to come on that. And if you are a football coach and are interested in trying out Football Lab, convenient time to mention a plug. Go to footballlab.com and request access. And then the other piece here, allowing a vision cone. I love this. It's something that we've been thinking about for a long time, just have never moved it up to the priorities. But I want to say there was like a version of Madden years ago where you had sort of like your vision cone before you throw the ball. It's almost what we envision is like where your eyes should be. So yeah, it's definitely something that we can look at incorporating. Ability to see player activity within their profile, number of views per play document, total length in views. So this one, again, clarification, this is available for complete and collegiate tiers, at least part of it, right? So in your player profile on the roster, you'll be able to see what the most frequently viewed plays are by each player. Then on the playbook side, you can see what the most commonly used plays are across your entire team, and which players make up those views. We won't get to like number of seconds, minutes of how long someone's been looking at it, but definitely like a count of how many times the play has been viewed by someone, and then their most recent view of that play. We don't have that for documents, but I like that. It's something that we can pull into the player profile. And then I touched on multiple balls being held by a coach for drills. email notifications for new posts and responses. This is available. This is available. So I think we probably just need to look back at this particular user's notification setup. It's possible that they've been opted out for one reason or another. Score and stats tracker for the season. It's on our radar. I'll just say one of the things that we need to manage is we are a small team, and score and stats tracker there's a whole ball of things that get into that and how deep you want to go. Excuse me, how deeply you want to go, and then what is good enough, right? So if it's surface level, maybe it's something that we look at exploring, but the other piece is also partnering with the right providers. So if you've got a stat tracker, there's a certain video tool out there that does this really well that we've gotten mentions of. It's definitely something that we want to incorporate. Video wall embedded next to I'm not quite sure I understand that, but sent this to the app. Many parents have been frustrated by the issue. Probably need to be more granular about games on the schedule, call time versus start time. Okay, yeah. So again, within the schedule, probably adding like a final score, win-loss, player of the game, easily done. Getting below that, where we're doing like individual statistics on each player, we'd probably be better off leaving that up to someone that's really good at doing that. Communication capabilities plus the ability to have an illustrated playbook and scout. Adding video allows players to see specifics in action. Adding huddle or score break video linking. Yeah, no, we're totally open to it. The one thing that I'll ask it, right, is it's as much about us accommodating our users as it would be for our prospective partners to hear it from their users, right? So it would be difficult for us to go back to one of these providers and say we want to integrate just because. Usually, your customers are kind of what drives your prioritization on all of these things. So as much as possible, if you can promote these types of feature requests with your vendor that you would like to have integrated with Lacrosse Lab, please do that. And if you want to connect us, that'll probably move things along a little bit faster. But certainly open to huddle or score break being incorporated in Lacrosse Lab, or just figuring out what the right interface would look like, where we can kind of do best of the best of both worlds. Communication. Okay. This one's been a long time roadmap item. So I think what this is getting at is like, we want to put out a post specifically to our offensive guys or our extra man guys, or similarly defense man down. And I don't want to notify the entire team of what's going on. Yeah. Definitely something we can look at incorporating. Love using it with my players. Love it. One-stop shop. Great tool. All right. Awesome. And then the last section here is our personal users. Okay. Edit where the ball starts after you've created the play. So depending on what we're looking for here, you can go back and move the starting position of the ball and the players. The one thing that we run into a lot is just the impacts downstream of what happens, right? So if the ball starts top right on frame 1, and then you go back and decide that you want to put it at X or something for an end line play, that's obviously going to impact the next set of plays and who the next pass is going to be. And so, it sounds very easy, but there are certainly considerations where sometimes it is just better to start over, because ideally creating a play is is easy enough, but just something to keep in mind. So important to my entire program. I believe players need to see plays, rides, clears in 3 different ways. Somehow team up with Huddle. Bring it up to Huddle. We will be happy to integrate. Software is useful, but needs a way to manage simultaneous movement and subsequent passes or shots without adding multiple frames, especially when creating drills. Okay, so this was mentioned 3 times, but again, I'm still having a little bit of trouble kind of wrapping my head around, like, why. Outside of, just having a ridiculous looking number of frames. So we could look at consolidating it down, but since that is the mechanism of what animates plays, we would need to really look behind the curtain and figure out how that works. So, but anyway, that's kind of the breakdown of all the feedback that we got. Again, 220 responses. Hopefully, if you were on the site as we were running the survey, that it wasn't too annoying, and if you took the time to respond to the survey, we're very grateful, because just going through this feedback, it's really helpful for us to understand where everyone's heads are at. And then I specifically wanted to do this video because I think everyone tends to provide feedback in what is meaningful for themselves, and they haven't necessarily considered the feedback of others. So if there's something that, as a respondent of the survey, you gave feedback specifically, but then maybe saw something else in this video that you liked, comment on it, let me know, and we can use this to just start a dialogue in the chat below. So again, appreciate you guys. Thank you for the feedback. And hopefully we can start incorporating this feedback pretty soon. Bye.